So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, villains, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. And I'm delighted today to be joined by the wonderful Ollie from We Are Luton Town podcast. And we're going to talk about, as the Kyron said a moment ago, we're going to talk about Ross Barkley. And you guys might have joined me last night for my little scouting analysis where I was trying to figure out, obviously Ross Barkley 2.0 is not the same as Ross Barkley 1.0 at Aston Villa when he joined us on loan. I think we pretty much established that last night, I think beyond all reasonable doubt. But obviously I've been known to be wrong more often than I've been right. So I wanted to get the wonderful Ollie on here to chat to us about Ross Barkley and how his renaissance, I suppose, has happened at Luton Town last year. Thanks so much for popping on, Ollie.
Delighted to be on. Thank you very much for inviting me. You were right when you said Ross Barkley 1.0 is different from Ross Barkley 2.0. He's a very different player from what anyone thought we were getting.
I can imagine, because when he first rocked up at Villa under Dean Smith, he was pretty much told, do not leave the attacking half as much as you possibly can. And when the ball comes to you, I just want you to make something happen up there. Do not chase back. Do not tackle. Do not cause fouls up there. Let them come at our, we conceded a lot of ground under Dean Smith. And when I watched him playing for Luton, I certainly did not see that player when I saw him play for Luton. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, 100%. But you gotta, I know Dean Smith is held in quite high regard at Villa, but you have to look Dean Smith and Steven Gerrard, and then transformation under Unai Emery. Different coaches will get different things out of players. So when Ross Barkley was brought in, we were all expecting, oh yeah, he's going to be an attacking midfielder. As you said, he's only going to be defending in the opposition half. And right away from his first appearance, sure, it took a few weeks for him to properly bed in. He sort of played this double pivot, and it was a double pivot whether he played with Marvelous Nakamba or later with Sambi Lokonga, where he played his best football. Unfortunately, Sambi got injured, and Ross Barkley was still shining in that double pivot, but the replacement of Jordan Clark or Pelly, because obviously Marv was injured, we couldn't get the results that we deserved at some points. Obviously, it was very tight come the end of the season. But watching him play has been a joy, and I certainly don't begrudge him a move. I think he deserves it off the back of how he sort of reinvented himself and revitalized his career, because since he left Villa, how much football has he actually played? Not much. Not much at all. He went to Nice, played 12 games, mostly off the bench. And sure, as I said, it was a slow start, but once he started getting some momentum, he was unstoppable. And you'll see a lot of Ross Barkley compilations going around where it's him dribbling through Bernardo Silva or dribbling through, the entire Arsenal midfield. To be honest, he's exactly the type of player that Villa need if you want to maintain your top four aspirations, because some of his best performances came against the best teams. You just need to look at the goal that we scored to put us, the goal that Tahith Chong scored to put us 1-0 up against Liverpool, whereby Ross Barkley receives the ball in our own box, and everyone in the crowd was just saying, boot it. But no, Ross Barkley takes a touch. He dribbles past two Liverpool players, bringing it out of our box. He puts it out wide to Issa Kabore. His pass, his vision for that pass was so good because it forced Issa Kabore to make the run. And also in anticipation, it made Issa Kabore get the ball out of his feet as quickly as possible because there wasn't too much pitch for him to run onto. He swung it into Tahith Chong, who put it in, putting us 1-0 up against Liverpool. Essentially, he has that footballing IQ, but because he's playing further back, he sees more of the pitch. So it's like playing chess with a grandmaster or something, whereby he is literally thinking multiple moves ahead. It's like perhaps a deep lying position was better for him after all, and he's maybe technically just been played out of position his entire career, which is, a real shame to say, because I obviously I've watched a lot of Premier League football over the years. I remember seeing Ross Barkley burst onto the scene at Everton when he was a kid and thinking, wow, he's really good. Like his power in dribbling from the attacking midfield position was absolutely sensational. But you take that power and put it a bit further so he's got more space to run into. And with his range of passing, where he can literally put it between, through, behind the defense to, you play with fullbacks that like to push forward aggressively, or Ollie Watkins who runs in behind. The sky's the limit for Ross Barkley. And I genuinely hope he actually doesn't sign with you just to sit on the bench.
Well, and that's an interesting one because I will say that a lot of the Aston Villa fan base are split. Just before I chat about that, I found it interesting when you said he'll fit in right at Villa Park when if he picks up the ball inside his own box and everybody's roaring booted, because we still have that kind of PTSD about playing the ball out from the back, and I jest about that for everybody who's
everyone
listening.
does.
I absolutely jest. I think it's just an inherent, Britain and Irish kind of way to look at the game of football. Us here in Ireland, we still revere Jack, or literally bow down to the altar of Jack Charlton, and he was Route One. He was Mr. Route One, straight up to Niall Quinn. So sometimes I do get a bit itchy sometimes when I see us play around the box. But obviously, that why I wanted to bring that up was that's a staple of the Unai Emery game. It's a staple of what Villa have done. And commentators, you can clearly see a commentator that has not watched Villa play very much. When they start commentating on a Villa game, they start to get itchy as well about playing it around the box. And specifically, ex-pros start to pretty much show their ignorance of the Unai Emery tactic when they start giving out about playing it around the box and saying that it's pointless and it's silly. But anyway, I won't air my grievance on that. But you mentioned there about Ross Barkley potentially, coming to Villa to play on the bench, and I think that as this season goes on, or as the new season, as we get into the new season, I think Unai Emery has identified one very clear area in midfield, and I think there's going to be a lot more rotation in midfield. Our two central midfielders of McGinn and Luis played over 4,000 minutes this year, which is a bonkers amount of minutes to play. We can't physically, there's no rabbit that we will find if we reach into the hat next year to do it 2 years in a row. I just don't think that that's physically possible. So there will be lots of opportunities for the Tielemans and the Ross Barkleys of this world. But the thing that kind of really got me excited that you mentioned there was the powerful running through the middle that Ross Barkley does. As the year went on for Aston Villa, we were, when Tielemans wasn't in the team, we were and because our two midfielders were running on fumes, we were solely only able to get joy by going wide. And that becomes predictable very, very quickly. So having somebody that can go through the middle in Ross Barkley, or if he does sign, or anybody that we do sign, I think we will be focusing on going through the middle and trying to progress the ball at our feet going through the middle as well. Now, obviously, Ross Barkley can pass it too. Am I right in saying, Ali, though, one thing I saw is that, and a big difference for me, Ross Barkley, from his time at Aston Villa, was he was tasked with almost being a Jack Grealish through the middle. And when Jack Grealish was out of the team some of that time during that season as well, he tried to almost take too much on his plate by trying to be that playmaker for Aston Villa. But what I saw at Luton was when he picked that ball up, and I said it in my podcast last night, he was only interested in the 15 yards, maybe 20 yards that were in front of him. And he looked like that was a very disciplined side of his game that Rob Edwards wanted him to do. So what I'm trying to get at here is he was never going box to box. He was kind of holding a 35 meter space between, right in the midfield third. Now, obviously, he would go into either box, but he wasn't running from goalpost to goalpost, which is something that he's tried to do in his career before. Have I picked that up incorrectly, or is that something that you would say that his discipline in midfield was on display at Luton? Positional discipline, sorry.
He was very disciplined positionally, but he was given license to get forward whenever the
Oh yeah,
opportunity presented. Because part of playing in the double pivot, like Sambi Lokonga would sit back and let Ross Barkley go forward. He scored 5 goals and
yeah,
got 4 assists, and only 2 of those goals they scored were near post headers from
yeah.
corners. So that's still 3 goals that he scored, and you just need to look at some of the goals that he has scored. And from the Walk Pod account, we have actually put up a little compilation of his goals and best moments. Goals in particular where he's started and finished the move, whereby he has had license to go forward. The goal against West Ham is one where it sticks out in my mind. He wins the ball back in our own half, and he sort of just roams up pitch with the ball. Not with the ball, but he's like laying it off to
Yes,
people, getting it back.
and that's what. Yeah,
Lays off to Doughty. Doughty has a shot. The ball gets parried back to him. He's in the 6-yard box, anticipating the rebound. That's just intelligent movement from him. He's not the furthest back in terms of he's not dropping into, in between the centre backs. He wasn't the one that was picking the ball up off the defenders most of the time. That would have been Sambi Lokonga, whose average position would be slightly further back than Ross Barkley. But he wasn't as far forward as he has been at like Chelsea or when he was at Villa. But he still likes to dribble. He still does try and take the game by the scruff of the neck. I don't know what Unai Emery will want from him. If he wants him to be Grealish 2.0, who knows? I doubt that though. But no, I wouldn't say, to answer your question about positional discipline, he seems to have come a long way. But he's also been given the freedom, if that makes sense. Yeah. I don't know. He just seems to be a bit more of a team player now than he ever was.
And that's exactly. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. That when he wins that ball back in defensive areas, I was seeing him dribble out of trouble, but not go too far. And when I was that's what I kind of meant by his discipline in midfield, his positional discipline as well, was he was taking that ball 10, 15, 20 yards out of danger, passing it off, and then maybe just gliding along and following the play. So he wasn't like trying to dribble through 10 players and get that ball.
No, he has done
the
that.
only man. Yeah, I know he has, but at Villa, that's what he felt he had to do. At times going through the middle, he felt he probably took too much out of the ball, and because he wasn't tracking back, I know if he was losing, he was being dispossessed further up the field. People were looking at him going, "Back at this guy's lazy as all hell." And he as the year went on, it became apparent he's been told he needs to stay up there and almost play as a second striker with Ollie Watkins, which is fine, and I've no problem with that. It's just the stark difference of when you play him in the middle of midfield and you see how much more deft his touch is, how much more intelligent he can look when he's on the ball. As you mentioned, they're spraying those passes out wide and just gracefully kind of moving on because he's got a long stride. He's 6'2". I think a lot of people forget about that. He's immediately 2 inches taller than any of our midfielders, I think. When he comes into the team, and that's something Villa have been very nice and very kind of, they've been nice small players in midfield, good players, don't get me wrong, but he brings a bit of heft into that midfield. So bringing him back, he's well able to glide his way up the field as well. So I think that's a really interesting part of his game, for sure.
Yeah, and with that height, as I mentioned, he's scored 2 goals from corners as well. Like he is quite a beast at the near post. Yes. Like he got one against Chelsea, which was really good. You've also got to see some of the goals he has scored, where he's just taken the ball all the way up pitch. With quick 1-2s. It's just his intelligence. When we signed him, I couldn't believe it. I actually heard about signing him about 24 hours before it was announced, and I told a couple of people at We Are Luton Town about it, and there was a mix. People were like, "Oh, Ross Barkley, he's washed." That was actually an exact quote from my co-host Ian. He said, "Oh, Ross Barkley, he's washed." But what a player he's been. He's given us some memorable moments. It's a shame that we couldn't stay up, because we would be demanding more money for him rather than just what's written into his contracts. But he does have a contract. You know, he's not out of contract, but he does have release clauses, which range between 5 and 10 million. I reckon on the lower side, probably 6 to 7.5 million. But either way, I think it's an absolute no-brainer bargain for Aston Villa at the end of the day.
And that was going to be my next question. Everyone, to man, woman, child, and dog, is saying that this is a free transfer, and that's why I want this. This is the crux of why I wanted to get you on, for your local knowledge. So Rob Edwards has always smiled back at the camera and said, and essentially more or less given two fingers in the lovely way that Rob Edwards does. It captured the hearts of all footballing fans, captured the hearts very much so of the female footballing fans across the world, I think, because he's quite the good-looking man. But whenever asked a question about Ross Barkley and contracts, he would just smile at the camera and say, yes, he does have a contract, and we know what his contract is. And I think that was great that he wasn't going to discuss it. So the thought out there that this is a free transfer. But from speaking to you, you have other ideas. So you say that there's clauses in there. You think that that this is not just a 1-year contract, that this isn't a free transfer, that there's potentially prices to be paid here.
Well, it was a 2-year deal. Like, he was being protected in the case that like any sensible representatives would find him a way out in case Luton Town got relegated. And this was always about giving Ross Barkley a platform to shine. It always was. Like, Luton Town are that type of club. We've done that with lots of players who sort of are down on their luck. Look at Alfie Doughty. Alfie Doughty couldn't get a game at Stoke, and he's become one of the most creative left backs in the Premier League this season. Also with Andros Townsend, although Andros Townsend kind of fizzled out as the season went on. So we've given Ross Barkley a platform, and there was an agreement made in the contract that he would be able to leave for a set price if we were to go down. I've heard mixed things about the length of the contract. I was told initially it was a 2-year deal, which sort of goes hand in hand with what Rob Edwards has said in press conferences, where he was actually asked directly about it. He said it's more than 1 year, less than 3. So that would make sense. There would be a 2-year deal. But yeah, like putting in a release clause, it's sensible. I wish potentially it would have been a slightly higher release clause. But obviously when a player like Ross Barkley comes, you sort of have to play ball with his representatives. But there was no chance ever that he was going to stick around to play in the Championship.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Apologies there, my internet dropped. I could still hear you, but my internet dropped here on camera. So yeah, I think that might be the case. And hopefully that has I suppose, enlightened everybody here about his contract status. And I think, look, it'll all come out. If he is to join Aston Villa, we will definitely get the details of this as soon as this drops. And I'm sure we will hear probably more on it over the coming days. But Ollie, I know you're a busy man. You've got stuff that you got to do. I said 15, 20 minutes. We're on 18 and a half minutes here. And I just want to say thanks a million for your wonderful insight in Ross Barkley. I want to wish Luton Town the best this year. You know, been an absolute darling side for the Premier League this year. And they've captured a lot of people's hearts, obviously with the ground and Kenilworth Road and stuff like that. When you guys go back down, I hope you come straight back up again, because with the parachute payments, coming back up into the league again could be an absolute boon for your club, specifically financially. And I love not regional, but I love clubs like that have such a kind of a great following, and a historical following, and like that, getting up into the Premier League is huge. Getting back up into the Premier League a second and third time can really make a great footing for the club, because we lose too many clubs to mediocrity, I think, down through the leagues through the course of the years. So I hope you guys get back up and start to really, really build something there in Luton.
Well, the Premier League is quite overrated. Most Luton Town fans haven't really enjoyed their time up here. It's not just because we miss winning. It's mainly because, other than the diehard fans, the Premier League has a bit of you look at social media and some of the nonsense that goes around there. People who have never been to a game in their life, and they're all experts, which is never been to a football game, let alone the team that they allegedly support. But that is the Premier League. I'm looking forward to the Championship, and it's about time to fall back in love with football, really.
Absolutely. I think so too. Well, listen, Ali, thank you so much for your time today. I really, really appreciate it. If anybody here has adopted a second team for the Championship, go follow the We Are Luton Town podcast. You'll hear a lot more of Ali and Luton's travails next season as well. But thank you all for watching here as well. We might be back later on with another podcast. I don't know. There's somebody else that may be lined up to come to chat to us. So keep an eye out on socials for that. Again, Ali, thank you very much for your time. And thank everybody that watched here. In the meantime, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy. And all that's left to say is up the Villa.